You're sitting next to them. Neither of you is really watching. Their body is there, but it feels like their mind is somewhere far away, and you can feel that distance in your chest before you can even explain it. You ask, "Are you okay?" And they say, "Yeah, I'm fine," in that flat, quiet voice that somehow ends the conversation before it even begins. And now your mind starts spinning. Why do I always feel shut out? If they love me, why is it so hard for them to show it? Why do I feel lonely, sitting right next to the person I want the most? Am I asking for too much? Or am I just trying to get love from someone who doesn't know how to give it? Here's the truth most people miss. An avoidant partner doesn't make love confusing because they feel less. They make love confusing because they feel deeply and protect themselves automatically. Sometimes the distance you feel is not the absence of love, it's the presence of fear beneath the surface. So no, you're not crazy for feeling confused. And no, this does not automatically mean you chose the wrong person. You're not failing at love. You may just be trying to read love in a language that was never spoken clearly to you. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand the 7 real signs an avoidant partner truly loves you, how to tell the difference between love and emotional unavailability, and what these patterns actually mean for your connection. Let's get into it. Most couples believe love should be obvious. Constant reassurance, easy vulnerability, immediate closeness. But the real truth is this. When someone has an avoidant attachment pattern, their nervous system often experiences intimacy and dependence as risk before it experiences them as comfort. That matters more than you think. Because your partner's nervous system is reading closeness before their mind can catch up, so what looks like withdrawal is often overwhelm. What looks like disinterest is sometimes a person trying not to drown in feelings they were never taught how to hold. And when safety leaves a relationship, the love doesn't always disappear. It goes underground. This is why most couples get trapped. One partner reaches harder, the other pulls back faster. One says, "Why can't you just open up?" And the other hears, "Who you are is not enough." One wants connection, the other wants relief. But beneath the surface, both people are usually longing for the same thing: safety, presence, real closeness without losing themselves. So if you love someone avoidant, here's the thing. You cannot measure their love only by how often they perform it in the ways you expect. Not louder words, not bigger gestures, not endless emotional processing, but the small, costly moments where they move toward you, even when every old pattern in them says to move away. That's where the truth lives, and that's what these signs are going to help you see. 1. They pull away, but they come back. Here's the part no one talks about. The first sign is not that they never need space. It's that after needing space, they return to the connection. Most couples read distance as the whole story. If an avoidant partner gets quiet after conflict, needs a night alone, or shuts down when things get intense, most people in relationships assume that means they don't care enough. And honestly, bro, that's the part that hurts. Because to you, love means staying engaged. But the deeper truth is different. Avoidant partners often learned early that emotional intensity equals loss of control. So when tension rises, their nervous system does what a smoke detector does. It sounds the alarm even when there's no fire in the room. They withdraw to regulate, not always to reject. And when they come back on their own, when they re-enter, when something in them says, "I still want us, even if I needed distance first," that matters a lot. Here's the disconnecting version. You say, "You always disappear when things get real." They go cold and say, "I can't do this right now." Then 3 days pass. No repair, no return, no reaching. Here's the connecting version. They say, "I'm overwhelmed. I need a little time, but I'm not leaving this conversation." And later that night, or the next morning, they come back with, "I'm ready now. Can we try again?" It may not be elegant. It may not be emotionally polished. But her brain is quietly registering, "He came back." And his nervous system is learning, "Closeness didn't destroy me." And when they do that, the space between you stops feeling like abandonment and starts feeling like something your connection can survive. 2. Their love shows up in actions before words. And this is the one most couples never figure out. Avoidant love is often practical before it is verbal. Most couples are trained to look for emotional performance, big declarations, constant check-ins, romantic language on demand. So when an avoidant partner fixes your car, picks up your medication, remembers you've had a brutal week, or quietly handles something that makes your life easier, most people miss the emotional meaning inside the action. But here's what nobody explains. For many avoidant partners, doing is safer than saying. Words can feel exposing, actions feel controllable. Love comes out sideways, not because it isn't real, because it's the only form their emotional system trusts enough to release. He may not say, "I missed you so much today," but he brings you food without asking, because something in him is saying, "I don't know how to say love, so let me carry it." Here's the disconnecting version. You say, "You never express how you feel." They hear criticism. They shut down. You feel even more alone. Here's the connecting version. You notice the pattern and say, "I know you don't always say a lot, but I noticed you stayed up helping me finish that thing when you were exhausted. That meant a lot to me." And they shrug and say, "It was nothing." But it wasn't nothing. You can feel it. Because when you name their effort, without shaming what's missing, their walls soften instead of rising. And when you do that, your partner stops feeling like a puzzle to solve and starts feeling like someone whose love language was hidden in plain sight. 3. They let you see the parts they usually protect. This is where it gets really interesting. Avoidant partners do not usually open all at once. They open in flashes. Most couples expect vulnerability to be smooth, a late-night heart-to-heart, tears, confessions, clear emotional language. But most people in relationships don't realize that for someone avoidant, vulnerability can feel like standing outside without skin. So when they share even a small fear, a family wound, a private insecurity, or the truth about how overwhelmed they've been, that is not casual. That is costly. The deeper emotional truth is that avoidant people are not empty. They are guarded. There's a difference. Not emotionally unavailable, not cold-hearted, not incapable of intimacy, but often deeply conditioned to believe that needing someone is dangerous, that being known creates pressure, and that exposing pain invites disappointment. So when they let you see something tender, even briefly, what they're really saying is, "I trust you with something I normally protect from everyone." Here's the disconnecting version. They say, "I don't really talk about my dad much. Things were complicated." And the other person jumps in with, Well, that explains a lot about why you are the way you are. Here's the connecting version. They say, I don't really talk about my dad much. Things were complicated. And you respond, you don't have to tell me everything right now, but I'm here, and I want to understand you. That's it. No interrogation, no fixing, no emotional ambush. And something in her is saying, maybe I don't have to disappear to stay safe with you. That's the shift that turns vulnerability from a trap into a doorway. 4. They stay present in discomfort instead of escaping it. Here's the part that separates real love from empty chemistry. An avoidant partner who loves you may still struggle in conflict, but they stop treating every hard moment like a reason to emotionally vanish. Most couples think love is proven in the easy moments. Vacations, chemistry, texting all day, affection when everything feels good. But most people in relationships don't realize the real test is what happens when disappointment enters the room. Because that is when attachment patterns wake up. That is when old cycles take the wheel. And the deeper truth is this. If your avoidant partner begins staying in the conversation 5 minutes longer than they used to, listening without defending quite as fast, or saying, I need a second, but I want to hear you, that is not small. That is massive nervous system work. That is them becoming emotionally available in real time. This isn't a communication hack. This is what it looks like when someone is learning to love without fleeing themselves in the process. Here's the disconnecting version. You say, when you went quiet at dinner, I felt shut out. They fire back, so now I can't even have a bad day without it being a problem. Here's the connecting version. You say, when you went quiet at dinner, I felt shut out. They take a breath and say, that wasn't my intention. I was stressed, but I get why it felt that way. That sentence changes everything. Because now the moment is not you versus them. It's both of you turning toward what happened together. And when they do that, the relationship stops feeling like emotional whiplash and starts feeling like a place where repair is actually possible. 5. They make space for you in their private world. But here's what nobody explains. Avoidant people often protect routine the way other people protect their heart. Most couples focus on obvious romance, date nights, compliments, public affection. But most people in relationships miss one of the clearest signs of real attachment in an avoidant partner. They begin making room for you inside the parts of life they usually keep sealed off. Their routines, their habits, their inner system, their space. Why does that matter so much? Because independence is not just a preference for many avoidant partners, it's protection. Their solitude is where they regulate. Their private patterns are where they feel in control. So when they start inviting you in, asking if you want to come along, including you in decisions, making room in their weekend, leaving your things at their place, telling you about their day without being asked, that is intimacy in their native language. He may not say, I want a future with you, right away, but he starts building one structurally. Here's the disconnecting version. You ask, what are you doing Saturday? They say, not sure, and leave you outside their life like a guest who always needs an invitation. Here's the connecting version. They say, I usually go to the gym early and then grocery shop. You want to come after? It sounds ordinary. It is not ordinary. It means you are becoming part of their real world, not just their emotional convenience. And what's moving through her is, I'm not being managed, I'm being included. And when that happens, the relationship starts to feel less like visiting each other and more like slowly coming home. 6. They remember what matters to you, even if they don't always respond perfectly. This is where love gets quieter and more real. Most couples mistake fluency for depth. They assume the partner who talks best about feelings must be the one who cares most. But most people in relationships have met someone who could say every perfect thing and still never truly show up. Words can be beautiful and empty. The deeper truth is that love often reveals itself through attention, through memory, through what your partner carries about you when you are not in the room. If your avoidant partner remembers the date that's hard for you, notices the tone in your voice, recalls what triggers your anxiety, or brings up something you mentioned once 3 weeks ago, their nervous system is more bonded than their style may suggest. Because attention is investment, presence is attachment, and real love is often hidden in what someone keeps track of without being told twice. Here's the disconnecting version. You say, "You forgot I had that presentation today." They say, "I've just been busy." Here's the connecting version. You come home, and before you say anything, they ask, "How did the presentation go? You said you were nervous about the first 5 minutes." That lands differently, because now your inner world feels held. Her brain is quietly registering, "I exist in his mind, even when I'm not demanding attention." That's not nothing. That's connection. And when you feel remembered like that, the relationship stops feeling emotionally one-sided and starts feeling held in all the little unspoken places that matter most. 7. They try to repair in their own awkward, unpolished way. And here's what changes everything. The deepest sign an avoidant partner loves you is not that they never hurt you. It's that they do not stay defended forever. Most couples look for perfect apologies, clear language, immediate accountability, emotional fluency under pressure. But most people in relationships are dealing with human beings, not healed nervous systems. So repair will not always come wrapped in the exact words you wanted. Sometimes it comes clumsy, sometimes late, sometimes sideways. But the deeper truth is this: repair is the language of investment. If they circle back, if they soften, if they send the text, if they make the tea after the fight, if they sit beside you and say, "I know that came out wrong," or "I've been thinking about what you said," or even, "I don't know how to talk about this well, but I don't want us off." That is love trying to find its way through old patterns. Not perfect love, real love. Not grand gestures, not dramatic promises, not one night of tears, but a person choosing the relationship again after their defenses have cooled. Here's the disconnecting version. After an argument, they act normal without ever addressing what happened. You're expected to move on while the hurt stays lodged in your body like scar tissue. Here's the connecting version. A few hours later, or the next day, they say, "I didn't handle that well. I felt cornered, and I shut down. I'm sorry." Maybe it's brief. Maybe it's awkward. Maybe you still need more. But something in him is saying, "I don't want my defenses to cost me you." And when they do that, the walls between you start to come down without either of you having to force the moment open. So let's land this clearly. These signs are not excuses for inconsistency, neglect, or emotional starvation. You still deserve connection. You still deserve safety. You still deserve a partner who is becoming, not just hiding behind a label. But if you've been loving someone avoidant, what you may need is not less discernment. It's better discernment. Because this isn't about teaching yourself to accept crumbs. It's about learning the difference between someone who is defended and someone who is disconnected. Someone who is slow and someone who is absent. Someone who struggles with closeness and someone who refuses it. That difference is everything. When you internalize this, you stop chasing proof in only one form. You start seeing patterns. You start reading what's real beneath the surface. And you become the kind of partner who can recognize love without romanticizing pain. These aren't tips for managing an avoidant person. They're an invitation to become more emotionally precise, more grounded, and more honest about what real connection actually looks like. Because when you stop confusing unfamiliar love with no love at all, you make much better decisions about who someone really is and whether the relationship in front of you has the safety, presence, and repair it needs to grow. Real intimacy begins the moment you stop asking, "Do they love me the way I would?" and start asking, "Are they truly turning toward me in the ways that cost them something real?"